and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and
Subscribe. Hey, what's going on? This is TNS Time and Space, and I would like to welcome you to episode 11 of Talk and Scroll. Before we begin, I want to invite you to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you can be made aware of any time I post new content. Okay, now that the housekeeping is done, once again, this is TNS Talk and Scroll, and I'm trying something slightly different, so we'll see how this works out. We are going to be discussing Ben Simmons. This is episode 11. For those who are not familiar, just a brief recap. Ben Simmons was a star player for the Philadelphia 76ers. He failed to perform in the playoffs. He took exception to criticism regarding his performance and immediately demanded a trade. He wanted to trade anywhere. He wanted to play anywhere except the Philadelphia 76ers. So he demanded a trade. Those demands were not met. The Sixers wanted to try to work things out as he had just signed a 5-year, $147 million contract, I believe. The money's not important. It's more about the time. We don't count another man's pockets. But it's relevant to the story in that he had just signed an extension and then all of a sudden he was looking to leave. So eventually he started receiving fines, or he was fined for, breaching his contract, essentially. He didn't show up to training camp. And at first he said that he had an injury, but it turned out, at least at the time, the injury wasn't significant. And he basically wasn't cooperating. So he wanted a trade, but he didn't want to fulfill his obligations as a player who was still under contract. So this created a tremendous controversy. And ultimately, the Sixers stuck to their guns until they found a sufficient trade partner, which was the Brooklyn Nets. So this is significant, though, because during this time, Ben Simmons lost a significant amount of salary. And at the time, he said the money didn't matter, that he just wanted to be traded. So now that he's been traded, he's filing a grievance to receive the money that he didn't receive for breaching his contract, essentially. So I want to discuss that because it's funny how things change, So as we scroll through the comments, I'm not doing this in real time. I wanted to try this feature where I could react. Somebody said the saga continues. Indeed, I thought it was done. This mofo got a lot of nerve asking for money. Now the debate begins about whether or not he will get his money. This person says, you don't get money for voluntarily sitting out, especially when they tell you every day you don't play costs you money. Sometimes I think people forget that he said, F the money, he's not practicing or playing. Philly didn't breach his contract. Exactly. So he was not cooperative, ultimately. If he genuinely had an injury or had a mental health issue, he should have cooperated, and he failed to do that. Even when the Sixers offered him resources, he wanted to see his own doctors, which is fine, but then Ben Simmons didn't even provide the necessary information so that his private doctors could coordinate with the team doctors. So ultimately, it was a ploy to get traded. And now he's upset, or apparently he's bothered, that he didn't receive his money, or that he's not receiving the money that he was fined. So ultimately, he was still under contract. And there are people who were celebrating his insubordination. But Ben Simmons is not like us. He's not like regular people. So someone said this may change the NBA forever if this succeeds. Most definitely, because as this person said, if it succeeds, players can sit out and claim mental health while getting all their money just because they aren't happy where they are. And that's also significant because, again, this was in year 2 of a 5-year extension. So there have definitely been players who forced their way out. Anthony Davis comes to mind. I believe he had maybe 1 year left or two or something like that. But four is extreme because if Ben Simmons was unhappy in Philadelphia, he certainly could have declined that extension. And another thing, too, I always maintained at the time that if he had been willing to play 5 or 10 games, he could have been traded a long time ago without losing $20 million. So, yeah, someone said, and Brooklyn traded for this guy. Yeah, ultimately, it's been a PR nightmare for Ben Simmons. If I were his public relations person, I would have just declared from the beginning that I wasn't playing due to mental health, or I would have disclosed that I had an injury. I would have been more cooperative, just to not quote unquote fumble the bag, as they say. So someone else said, why are you counting people's money? It's not about counting money. It is a relevant story. I scrolled past it, but the person said, Ben Simmons is filing a grievance. That's the story, whether it was $20 million, whether it was $2. It's the idea of filing a grievance against a team when you didn't want to play and you didn't cooperate. So ultimately, if anything, the Sixers had grounds for a grievance against Ben Simmons. That's what's truly ironic. And as a Sixers fan, I rooted for Ben Simmons, so it's truly unfortunate. I hope that he gets the help that he needs. I hope that he gets the medical treatment that he needs. But in these situations, you still have to cooperate. And if you're going to stand on principle, then stand on principle. He said the money didn't matter, the fines didn't matter, but now all of a sudden they do. So if he was concerned about receiving his money, he should have been cooperative with the Sixers and been professional as a player under contract. I understand his feelings may have been hurt or what have you, but that's part of the demands of being a professional athlete. And I've seen a lot of people champion Ben Simmons, just as an idea of sticking it to the man, for example, or, employee rights. He's an independent contractor. It's different from being an employee. He provides his services and he's compensated extremely well. Does that mean that you own a person? No, it does not. However, that doesn't excuse you from being professional. It's not a matter of slavery or any of the outlandish comparisons that people have made. But anyway, I just wanted to make this a quick episode. This is TNS, Time and Space. This has been another episode of Talk and Scroll. Y'all take it easy.
Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll.
Two.